So if I need a great discount on my next vacation, I know who to message for sure.
So we know once the customer has done the checkout, it's very difficult to sell anything. And
Okay.
with the evolution of offerings in the industry, you have tons of things which you either want to upsell or cross sell to a customer. I think the primary way lies again in the data. That you have to end up personalizing and customize for a user. For example, if a user is booking a flight last minute, I might not be selling them price protection insurance because, in all honesty, they are pretty damn sure about their travel plans. We were the first one globally to do that. Nobody has been doing such a complex journey at a global scale. Let's say if a consultant is traveling in the morning, they would not want to first get up early and then wait for long queues to board. So that is a primary customer with the right intent at the right point in time, where we send a nudge, which could be a push notification, a CRM communication, a WhatsApp communication. For selling this, we very smartly use some nudges, some content there that, hey, if you buy the insurance right now for a ticket, let's say 1 or 2 months in advance, it will be of this much value. And then we make it more real life that, hey, Mr. X or Y have also booked and they were about to lose their money.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Behind the Feature. Have you ever wondered when you're making your travel booking what actually goes behind it? Today, I've decided to peel the curtain behind some of our favorite apps where we go around booking. Today on the show, we actually have Suraj, who's been instrumental in shaping the travel experience of millions and a dynamic leader in product management at the Expedia Group. The Expedia Group's total revenue as on 2023 was more than 12,080 crores, and this makes it bigger than Airbnb and TripAdvisor combined. Suraj actually brings with him a decade of experience, which includes roles at OLX Group, the Cast 24, Travel Triangle, and Cognizant, culminating into his current position as the Director of Product Management at Expedia. Suraj and I actually happened to go to B School together, so I'm very excited. I'm actually seeing him almost after 10 years. And this is going to be a super fun episode. Now, want to shift gears to the travel world. It is a world. You worked at Travel Triangle. You're at Expedia currently. I want you to share a bit first about Expedia's brand principles. What is important for you, and what is it you do at Expedia?
Expedia is more than a 2 decade old company. So a company grows by organically building products and markets and a lot of inorganic growth. So Expedia is a huge group with more than 20 brands under their umbrella across the group presence. So I do two things at Expedia. I definitely look at their checkout experience for brand Expedia, and I also look into one of their vertical line of business, which is Hotwire, where we end up selling deep discounted hotels. So these are
Okay.
the two areas which I look at Expedia.
So if I need a great discount on my next vacation, I know who to message for sure.
Yes, for sure. I'm also surprised myself the kind of user traction we goes there and the kind of discounts available. It is really discount.
So you mentioned the checkout process. It has honestly evolved so much, and all of the travel sites that you use, there's so many options that are there. Can you actually tell me how do you prioritize the features that you want to include, because it gets so overwhelming? So there is so much, right, in terms of like.
Especially for the travel domain because it's a high ticket transaction. Average ticket price is much higher than the remaining part of the e-commerce. So we need to understand that how upselling and cross-selling plays a role in optimizing checkout experience.
First, explain upselling and cross selling.
Yeah, so I think upselling is probably increasing the revenue from the same transaction. For
Yes.
example, if we are selling a flight to a customer, then probably pushing the customer to, hey, upgrade the flight from economy to premium economy, or
Okay.
hey, why not opt for some extra leg room? Hey, why don't you opt for priority check-in? So basically, you are generating extra revenue on the same transaction. That is upselling. Now, cross-selling is you are trying to attach some different line of business on the same transaction. Basically, increase the number of commodities bought in the same transaction by the consumer. For example, to a flight customer, you are trying to sell hotel, you are trying to sell car, you are trying to sell activity, you are trying to sell insurance. All these comes under cross-selling. We are selling an additional product to a same customer. Now, what happens at the checkout of a travel aggregator? So we know once the customer has done the checkout, it's very difficult to sell anything. And
Okay.
With the evolution of offerings in the industry, you have tons of things which you either want to upsell or cross sell to a customer. And obviously, as you said, you cannot make it overwhelming for customer. So what is the way? I think the primary way lies again in the data, that you have to end up personalizing and customize for a user. For example, if a user is booking a flight last minute, I might not be selling them price protection insurance, because in all honesty they are pretty damn sure about their travel plans.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but given that they're in a hurry, they might not have booked the hotel at all, and they might have definitely not booked the insurance at all, because you book ticket first and then insurance. So basically, you have to understand your insurance customer. You have to run your machine learning algorithms, and then combining both of them, you have to customize and personalize the experiences for user. And I think that is the way ahead to make it more meaningful for customers and not make it overwhelming.
So you say personalization is the key. So what I will see, which because usually I'm always a last minute traveler, what you will show me is, hey, book a hotel, versus someone like you who might be more planned. You'll be like, hey, why don't you take an insurance? Because you might just cancel this trip due to something. So
So there are
you,
multiple things. I'll tell you, when I worked almost a decade ago at Travel Triangle, there was nothing of that sort of it. It was very plain vanilla checkout page. Now you
huh,
have so many different type of protection: health insurance, travel insurance, price drop protection, price change protection if you want to change the travel date. There are so many products available, and the beauty here is you cannot combine all of them into one, because then it will increase the price so much that your attach rate will decrease, and you
right,
cannot separate them all as well, because you will end up confusing customers.
correct.
That is where your machine learning algorithm comes in, which ones to combine and which ones to show for a particular user based on past patterns and based of user behavior and based on so many different variables. That is what I think is the way ahead in terms of personalizing experiences for customers on checkout.
Okay, and you mentioned insurance, but the other thing that is also, there's so many options, is the payment options, the coupon codes, the credit cards, the UPI. How do you actually accommodate this while designing your checkout experience?
So payment is a very very interesting space, because payment industry is evolving at a very fast pace, and I can tell you that market by market, top payment method also changes. They are not same for every market. So
Yes,
so we have to keep a track that how the payment distribution traffic is increasing in the fintech industry, and accordingly we have to keep plugging that into our payment modes as well. So for example, definitely instant payment methods, which is credit card, debit card, net banking, and other payment methods are there. But there has been an introduction of pay later options as well, which has led to a huge jump in our conversions, because travel is a high ticket transaction. And whenever transaction amount increases, any form of financing helps customers.
definitely. So, how has the introduction of pay later actually impacted the conversion rates and customer lifetime value?
So I'll tell you another interesting thing. Pay later has evolved over a decade. So when I used to work at Travel Triangle, the only form of pay later was that, hey, you are booking now, you can pay amount later, but you have to pay it before start of the travel, before consuming the travel. So that was not in a true sense pay later, but yes, definitely some part of pay later. Now in ideal world, it simply means an EMI kind of concept. Hey, I am paying now.
Okay.
I pay at my ease, just like any other loan, any other personal loan. With that getting introduced in the travel industry, I think a huge boost has happened to the travel industry, because if you're doing a family travel, it costs you bombs, and if you get to finance that as well, I mean, if you're doing an international trip, it is as good as buying a budget car in India. So probably getting that financed is a great boon to the travel industry.
And is it possible for you to actually share an example of a checkout optimization that had a significant impact on the revenue for Expedia?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about checkout optimizations, so there are two ways to optimize your checkout page. One is you start doing additional offerings in terms of upselling and cross selling, because whatever you add on the checkout page, you are not paying anything to acquire customer additionally. Customer is just attaching, you are generating revenue, but more than revenue, because you have very minimal cost, you are directly hitting the bottom line of your company. You're basically
Okay.
generating profit instantly. So I think with the evolution and the way new products are coming in the insurance industry, probably introducing insurance is a new line of business altogether, which happened multiple years ago. But as we keep improvising it, keep adding new products to it, it is a great contributor in terms of revenue and bottom line profit for our company.
So, Suraj, you actually explained upsell to us, you've explained cross sell to us. I actually want to understand from you what are some of the strategies that work really well for upsell in the travel industry?
I think upsell is a very important aspect wherein we are already trying to capitalize on the intent of the customer. So customer is already having very high intent to do transaction or might have already done the transaction. Let me take a line of business. Let's take flight. Now what happens? Flight is a very instant transaction because price are very dynamic in nature. They keep changing. So once the customer is sure about the time, they just go and make the payment and the transaction. Now as a product person, as a line business, we want them to buy more. For example, let's say buy extra leg room or take priority boarding, but a lot of customers doesn't buy upfront. So here comes the role of upselling. So what happens? uh, let's say if a customer has brought a plain vanilla ticket with nothing as an attachment, and we want to sell probably either the extra leg room, or let's say we want to buy them the priority boarding experience. So there are seasonalities, there are some particular day of the week, there is some particular time of the day. For example, let's say if a consultant is traveling in the morning, they would not want to first get up early and then wait for long queues to board. So that is a primary customer with the right intent, with the right point in time, where we send a nudge, which could be a push notification, a CRM communication, a WhatsApp communication, that hey, why wait in the queue? Why not buy the priority boarding experience? So these techniques, when we capture the customer at right point in time, both using data and using content, I think we are very rightfully able to capture customer and generate more value for the company.
I think this sounds so similar to the Book My Show approach, which Tuisha also had shared with us, saying, at what point you give the right nudge so that the person actually like buys the other thing. So this is also very interesting. The other part of this is the cross sell piece. How does your strategy actually differ, or what is it that works for cross sell in your experience?
Now, cross sell, though it is different line of business. For example, to a customer, we are trying to sell either insurance or forex or cab. But cross sell is something where our intent is to sell customer before the transaction. Because if once the transaction is done, doing any form of cross selling is difficult. Let's take an example. I'm sure you have also traveled a lot. So let's say if you are planning, if you are a good planner, you're planning much in advance, but you are still unsure, given our daily lives, whether professional and personal, whether I'll be able to make the commitment on the dates or not. That is where the risk comes, because these days flights put a heavy penalty on you for cancellation last minutes. You can't change the dates, so there the insurance kicks in. So we try to cross sell insurance right at the moment. Now again, for selling this, we very smartly use some nudges, some content there, that hey, if you buy the insurance right now for a ticket, let's say 1 or 2 months in advance, it will be of this much value. And then we make it more real life, that hey, Mr. X or Y have also booked, and they were about to lose their money, and because of insurance they were about to save this much of money. So see,
Yeah.
we are able to give a customer real time example that this actually happened. And the best part is we don't have to generate this content, because we have so much of transitional data available, and we know if some customer is using that insurance that they are claiming. So we are in a way generating the true content. So we also, while writing that, know that it is a true scenario and it happened. So with that confidence, when we get to customer, I'm glad to say that customer also understands that, and they happen to purchase that. So it is authenticity, it is capturing the right point in time, right moment in time, and yes, bingo, it happens.
Suraj, when it comes to boosting primary conversion rates, right, without your upsell and cross sell options, what strategies do you actually recommend?
So upselling and cross-selling are additional things. Let's say what will happen if they never existed in the world. The objective of the checkout leg in the journey is to improve the conversion. Even though customer has
Correct.
matured the intent from, let's say, landing pages to SRPs to PDPs, but customer is still not 100% sure. So how do we ensure that we are able to increase the customer intent and we are able to push them in the conversion funnel? So this is exactly the point where we tell customer that hey, for example, again, whether it is flight or hotels, that hey, this is a limited time deal. Hey, prices are about to increase. Hey, historical trends show that as you pass certain dates, price tend to increase by significant amount. So remember, I gave another example from my Autotech experience where we tried to show a graph taking an example of how price
Yeah.
moved. Exactly.
Stock exchange.
Yes, a different type of curve, a different type of line graph, but it again shows that your price can skyrocket. And it actually happens because the people who keep searching, who don't end up booking and they end up just planning, they themselves realize that, hey, price have increased, I've missed that. So I think those nudges, dynamic nudges with the dynamic content, that, hey, if you don't miss, price increase. Now, again, so this is probably some people can say, hey, this is a negative strategy, you're trying to induce fear, but that is not how it works. There is another strategy which can work here, is which is positive reaffirmation, which is all about, hey, x number of traveler books recently for this particular flight or hotel. Hey, x people have booked so much of money by booking it at this point in time or that much point in advance and save the money. So these are positive reaffirmations. So we use a combination of both, and combining both of them, I think we are able to probably increase our conversion rate by a good amount.
So, Suraj, you have this really experience across industries, right? So, you've done travel, you've done classifieds, you've done used cars, you've done consulting. So, you have seen a very wide range of industries. Can you share actually some key takeaways about product management, which is the same across all these dynamic sectors?
Yeah. So I think probably I'm going to approach this question from a very different dimension. So for product management, if I divide different products available, let's say into categories. One category is where the consumer interaction with the product mostly or completely happens over digital channels. If I take WhatsApp as an example, we totally interact online. There is no
Yes.
offline part attached to it. But when I come to other operation heavy businesses, which includes e-commerce, auto tech, travel tech, they always have a long tail transaction operational part is involved. So that is where I believe the product management changes completely. And I think this is the biggest learning probably I have had, because in auto tech and travel tech, it is a long tail journey, because user does a transaction at one point in time and fulfills it later. But if I talk about classified journey, where it is peer-to-peer interaction, we are only purely enabling users just to shake hands online and then go offline. So there probably, if the platform is not assisting in that transaction, there the way we think and the way we develop products is very, very different. So I think those little nuances on how to develop product for operational part of business versus only the digital part of it is very, very different. Because as I said initially, product is automation of a process. So you first define a complete operational process, then you end up automating it bit by bit. The North Star always is, hey, let's automate everything. Hey, let's even enable used car transaction online. But that is not the case. The moment ticket size increases, we get personally involved as a user, and that is where the complexity of a product journey arises. So yeah.
So, you've actually already stepped in. So, I want to talk about the product development process. Would it be possible for you to actually walk us through an approach, the way that you actually create a new user journey, especially, when you're starting from scratch, or you're developing like a MVP for the product?
So I think let me invoke one of my examples for working OLX Group as a company. So traditionally, OLX globally is a classified platform, and classified platform is a marketplace wherein it's mostly a peer-to-peer interaction. Seller lists a product, buyer sees it, they end up exchanging information. Now,
Right.
to generate more value of this interaction between the customers, OLX decided to choose their top category, which is auto listing category, as the primary focus area, and wanted to add more value by engaging more in the customer journey through the transaction process. So, what happened? Instead of both customers meeting end to end, we designed new journeys for C2B and B2C. What does that mean? Now, customer will be selling their used vehicle to OLX Autos as a platform, and then when we acquire the vehicle, we will be further selling that vehicle back to the buyer. So, buyer will again be dealing with OLX Autos as a platform.
I'll just summarize. So initially, the way I kind of sold my sofa on OLX was I just put up and explained that I'm selling my sofa, and then somebody just comes. They called me. They came over directly to my place, and they picked up the sofa, and we did the transaction. What OLX actually wanted to do now was saying, "Hey, we actually want to engage more with the customer. So let's do this. If today I want to sell my car, rather than me just listing my car, I actually interact with OLX and I sell my car to OLX. Is that correct? And then OLX finds a buyer as in when they can find it. So that is the new journey that you all were designing.
Yeah, exactly. Because you see, there might be products which are not mechanical in nature and which are not very complex in nature. For example, say I lost my charger. I want to buy a used charger. The only way I want to test is just plug in, it's charging, I'm fine with that. And there's nothing more I can do. Auto, used car is such a complex product, such a high ticket transition. Because when the ticket price increases, the user definitely gets involved. That is one. And second, when the complexity of the product increases, in this case, which is used auto, there has to be a lot of knowledge, a lot of work which has to go into sharing the information transparently for both buyers and sellers. That is where we
Right.
feel that as a platform, we can add value to the users and generate business also for the company. Probably we were the first one globally to do that. Nobody has been doing such a complex journey at a global scale. So this is pure 0 to 1 product development where we have not much clue on how to go about it. So for example, we wanted our online users to come to our stores and get their car inspected. Now that is not an easy task at all. People are very much comfortable in their home, just listing it and waiting to respond to few interactions. But when we did a user research, we found out that the percentage of cars sold versus car listed is very, very low. And the fundamental reason is the information asymmetry, the price transparency, and the trust factor involved. How to establish trust, how to know what lies in a car. Because a new car can be a commodity, but a used car, it can be a lemon as well. You never know what happened to the car. And at the same time, what's the right price? There is no measurement of defining the price. So there is a huge scope of someone throwing in some expertise who have global data points to establish that yes, this could be a potential right price. So these are the
Okay.
three areas where, as a company, we started investing, started collecting data, and we started adding value.
Can you take us through a problem that you face and then how you actually solved it with the help of the design thinking process that you?
This is one of a very interesting questions, and I'll take you to a very interesting part of it. So tell me one thing, probably as a user as well, when you are about to sell a car and somebody wants to tell you, hey, this is the possible price of your car. Do you have any graphical representation, pictorial representation in your mind? How does a UI should look like?
I mean, honestly, no. I'm just like, yeah, it should just show up. This is what the total price of my car is. So, I mean, I've done it for the phone, but I don't have
Yeah,
it.
great. So, one interesting thing is, so definitely showing price is one part of it. But as I said, there cannot be a single price for the car. So, what used to happen globally, there were some players, and when we draw inspiration from them, they were using some element of the car, which could be the odometer or a gear, to show how price of the car moves.
Okay.
So showing some color coding and that odometer. Basically, probably introducing and embedding some element of a car. They might end up using a signal, a road, a number plate, anything just to make it closer to the car. But when we were encountering this problem in one of my companies, so what happened? The problem was when we did a user research on the customers who were not transacting and even who were transacting, what we identified was their primary problem area was definitely for a seller it is price always, but second most important part was they were seeing some price online which is X and then Y price at the store, and they had a Z as the expectation, which is all three are different. They were not able to connect a simple thing that hey, why this price is the best price for my car. Now there cannot be a true justification because I said they are not globally traded commodities. They are not stock exchanges where price is
Yeah.
justified. So we have to design a journey for our user to help them understand that hey, whatever price we are showing, how this price is mapped to the condition of your car and why this price is the best price. So the problem was show user online that how the price of the car varies with the condition of the car. Now there could be very simple ways of doing it, probably some sliders and some way of, as you said, simply write the whole content. But what we did was me and the design team, they went to the blackboard and start designing it. So I'll tell you, it was almost 7 years ago, and that time probably fintech industry was booming in India as a market, and it was probably I think a budget time as well, some February and March. So every newspaper you look at, every digital news platform you look at, there is always a fancy of some kind of share market like graph being shown up, that how this
Okay.
popular curves happen. Something goes up, something goes down, actualize it again shoots up. I think that was the flavor of the seasons. Too many graphs being showed up, and irrespective of the region of the country, irrespective of the language, that pictorial representation was there on top of every media house, every newspaper, and a lot of startup reporting channels as well. That yes, this is the curve which everyone understands. Now, drawing inspiration from that, what we end up doing was we end up designing our price revelation page online in such a way that we showed customer that hey, your price of your car varies with the condition of the car and it lies in
Okay.
various buckets. Now that is what I believe was one of the very important problem solving, innovative problem solving, which we did locally. And I'm sure a lot of people globally drew inspiration from that. I won't name them, but that is purely problem solving which happened from the scratch using the design thinking. And I think me and the team is really proud of it.
I mean, this is actually very fantastic. The fact that you used a localized element, a moment which was relevant in India. And I think I just did this gaming podcast with the Ludo King product head, and he said, hey, we have Diwali, so we do something like a Diwali dice. The fact you were like, it's budget season, everyone's only seeing budget, so let me like capitalize. So I think this is a fantastic learning. So, Suraj, you actually started talking about global products and how OLX is such a big global company. Can you actually share with us what were some of the challenges and opportunities that are presented for you when you're actually building for the Indian market as compared to when you're building for the world?
So, Disha, I think this is very interesting in a way because even if though every consumer is different given ethnicity and their cultural differences, but there are a lot of regulatory differences as well. For example, I'll tell you, being a very active consumer in India of new age tech companies, I'm sure we are always flooded with retargeting campaigns. And how do they happen? Because the moment we want to interact with any brand, they ask us for the contact information, and we end up sharing that as well because we are fine. Law also is fine with that, and we are also fine with that. So whenever we build products in India, for example, let's say introducing financing products, which is insurance or GPS or any other product, the moment a consumer starts a journey, we grab their contact information and then let them continue with the journey. But the context totally switches upside down because when we are building products for Western markets, which is European or America's region, then there the guidelines are so strong that you just cannot ask for customer information upfront. And there, even the customer mentality is so strong that without giving any gratification, asking for personal information is simply pissing off. When we were building product in India, I think it was fine. We were having good customer acquisition, we have good database, we can do retargeting. So yes, we are keeping our CACs in some boundaries, and we were having good journeys and good experiences, good traction. But when we went on launching these products to global markets, we have to redesign our core user journeys. It might sound very small that hey, just port one step of asking mobile number from earlier stage to later. Actually, it is that only from UI perspective. But no, when you think from the whole strategy perspective, now you are not able to contain customer in your ecosystem unless customer is willing to transact with you. So basically, for Looker's customer, you just cannot capture them.
So I know what you mean. So, the way we do it in India is the moment I download an app, you're like, first give your phone number and then let's start talking. Versus when you do this for a global app, it's absolutely like even giving an email ID, there is always a way to skip it because people, like you said, are not comfortable to share it. So, actually, how did you address this particular problem that you were facing?
Yeah, so probably then again we have to go back to the drawing board and understand what could be that point of inflection where customer feels gratified. So
Okay.
so what we introduced was in one of the market we started piloting that hey, let's try to give our customers instant eligibility for a role. Now instant eligibility, the moment you enter, we will tell you upfront that whether you are eligible for not. Now technically, obviously, if we have customer data, we can automate backend data integrations. We can hit bureaus, hit multiple channels, third party sources to collect data and give. Technically, that is doable. But now, how to make customers share their personal information? That is where the biggest challenge came. So it was not a one shot thing. We started evolving our customer journey step by step. Hey, by default, let's move asking personal information to the last part of the journey. And believe me, the conversion of that funnel is way too bad. So that is where we started heavily experimenting by introducing element and nudges and gradually moving, seeking customer information one step ahead. So we are still not at the level what we do in India where we ask upfront, but now somewhere in the middle of the journey, we are able to collect customer information by giving them customer gratification and by building customer trust. And interesting part, how our customer journey evolved in the same journey. When we show customer that they are eligible, we recently tied up with a partner where in the same journey we are doing online collecting documentation and taking customer one step further deep into the funnel towards loan disbursement.
Okay. I think, Suraj, this has been so fantastic. I got to learn about the auto industry. I obviously love traveling, so travel, learning about what's the cool stuff, and I'm definitely going to be harassing you to get me good deals.
It was wonderful interacting with you. I'm sure I was able to add a value to the upcoming product managers. Thanks a lot for having me on the platform. Thanks, Diksha.
Thank you.